The tape begins with silence. No time stamp. No security preamble. Just a small room-tone hum-like breath being held. Then the rustle of a chair. A voice, female, calm, dispassionate. "It hasn't happened yet," she says, "but it will. You'll lose power in 17 minutes. The emergency lights will flicker twice. And then someone will knock. But there will be no one there." The interviewer scoffs. "You've read this file already." "No," she replies, "I remember it." Her name is Eira Lark, born in Brussels in 1987. At the time of this recording, dated October 4th, 2023, she is 36 years old. Former archivist at the European Institute for Collective Cognition, an obscure, privately funded memory lab buried under 3 levels of restricted airspace in Leuven. Her clearance level is black-striped, neurosensitive class 4, but she doesn't remember applying for the job. In fact, she doesn't remember her life until 4 years ago. Every memory before 2019 is missing, wiped clean. No trauma, no accident, just absence. And then, she began remembering things that hadn't happened yet. The first was small. She remembered a train derailment in Germany. 39 dead. But there was no news, no evidence, no report. 6 days later it happened, exactly as she described it. Then came the avalanche in Montenegro. The plane engine failure over the Atlantic. A factory fire in southern Italy. It's always precise. Always too early. Eira never claimed to predict the future. She claimed to remember it, like postcards from a trip she hadn't taken yet. Vivid. Sharp. Smelling of ash, salt, blood. The Institute took notice. She was moved to a specialized Wing 1, reserved for anomalies that defied traditional neuroscience. Her new title was not Archivist. It was Witness Class Echo. They began cataloging her recall events. Each one time-stamped. Each one cross-referenced against future global incidents. At first, they were cautious, neutral. But then, something changed. Because the more IRA remembered, the more others were forgotten. One technician who logged her dreams nightly disappeared from employment records after she remembered his death in a fire that hadn't yet happened. Security footage of the wing reclassified itself. Her previous coworkers stopped recognizing each other. Entire threads of memory unraveled in silence. And at the center, Eira sad, reciting things that didn't yet exist. In one recording, she calmly states, "There will be a cathedral collapse in Florence, not due to fault lines, but erosion. The cornerstone will give way. The man beneath it, his name will be Aurelio. He has no children, but he will scream for a daughter that was never born." 3 weeks later it happened. But the part that disturbed the Institute most? When they looked into Aurelio's background, there was no record of a daughter, no mention, no family, nothing, until they reviewed the footage from his death. Seconds before the stone crushed him, he screamed one name, Eira. The administrators began reviewing her records for fabrication, for suggestion implants, for predictive modeling leaks, nothing. But then, they found the old box, buried in a sublevel marked for incineration. Inside, tapes from 1972, audio reels from a man named Konrad Oestreicher. Oh. A neurolinguist studying temporal mnemonic residue, memories dislocated from linear time. On tape number 17, Konrad speaks of a subject who claimed to remember events borrowed from the years ahead, including the fall of the Berlin Wall, the assassination attempt on John Paul II, and a war in the Middle East involving unmanned aerial units. He described her voice as sharp, cold, detached like someone watching history backwards. Her name? Eira. But that was impossible. She hadn't been born yet. But in her journal, scrawled in frantic lines, she had already written the transcript of Konrad's voice word for word. One day before it was recovered, on the final page of that journal, "I'm not remembering the future. I'm returning it. It's not mine." The Institute was designed without corners. That was the first thing visitors noticed, if they noticed at all. Every corridor curved, every room nested within another. There were no right angles, no clear ends. The architects claimed it improved cognitive flow for memory patients, but staff quietly called it the loop. Some joked that the building remembered you more than you remembered it. Until they realized the truth, the building forgot you if you stayed too long. Dr. Arnaud Véron, a senior researcher, began a long-term observation of Eira in early 2023. He compiled 127 pages of notes, each entry precise, cross-referenced, peer-reviewed. On July 1st, his badge stopped working. Security found his office empty. No signs of struggle. His personal belongings gone. Even the nameplate on his door had changed, now reading vacant. But the strangest part? His notes were still in the database, logged under Eira's name, authored by her. Eira never denied it, but she never confirmed it either. "I remember him," she said, "but only after he was gone. Like someone slid his file into my head and said, 'This was yours.' The staff were unsettled. Some resigned. But those who stayed began forgetting things. Their spouse's birthday, their passwords. One by one, the faces of colleagues blurred at the edges, not erased, rewritten. And Eira's memories grew more vivid. On September 14th, 2023, Eira described a building collapse in Oslo floor by floor, room by room. She mentioned a woman in a green sweater screaming for a child named Nico. At that time, no such collapse had occurred. But in her description, Eira mentioned a small plaque on the side of the building, dedicated to the unseen. The Institute's architectural historian went pale, because those words weren't from Oslo. They were etched quietly on a door beneath sublevel 3, a floor no one was supposed to use. No schematics existed. No clearance allowed. But that night, motion sensors detected a presence near that corridor. One camera placed inadvertently caught a glimpse. Eira, barefoot, walking toward the door. The plaque was clearly visible, and the door, though sealed in concrete for 40 years, opened. Inside was not a room. It was an absence, a cavity shaped like a vault, with no hinges, no handles. Just a metal ring embedded in a circular wall. Etched into its surface were 4 words: Vault of Unmade Hours. No one knew what it meant. But when the footage was reviewed again, frame by frame, Nollis noticed something chilling. Eira wasn't alone. A second figure stood just behind her, unmoving face obscured by flicker. Zooming in revealed no details. Only that the figure wore the Institute's original Archivist Uniform 1, discontinued since 1973. They checked older records and found a photo of the building's founding team, taken during construction. The figure was there. Same build, same posture, same uniform. Facial recognition failed. There was too much interference. But when the image was run through color reversal, another detail emerged. A lanyard ID. The name read Eira Lark. But the photo was dated 1971, 16 years before Eira's birth. After that day, the vault room could no longer be found. The corridor leading to sublevel 3 now ended in a blank wall. No one remembered authorizing demolition. No one remembered recording the camera feed. But every researcher who reviewed the footage independently drew the same diagram in their notes. A spiral, nested within a square, surrounded by names none of them recognized. When interviewed, they gave different explanations. But each of them concluded the same way. I didn't draw it, I remembered it. Eira was moved to Isolation Ward Echo 1. She never resisted. She only made one request: to be given access to a series of objects that didn't exist in any known catalog. She listed them by description only. A red book with no title, bound in cloth, always cold to the touch. Steel box filled with burnt film reels. A stone shard engraved with 5 letters. ULTRA. None of these objects were on record. But the archive's automated index, when scanned 4 matches, returned 1 entry for each. All listed under the category Returned Artifacts. Status: destroyed -1998, but there were no records of the 1998 fire. No one remembered it, except Eira. Eira Lark was placed under constant observation in Echo 1. No visitors, no electronics, no pens, no paper. But within 48 hours, she'd etched a full-length inscription on the mirror with her fingernail. The script resembled no known language, but it looped like cursive, spiraling inward. Linguistic analysts rotated the image and ran it through symbol pattern recognition. The result? A perfect waveform. 44 Hertz. The same frequency recorded in the Vault of Unmade Hours. Except this one was modulated. It wasn't static, it was breathing. Dr. Esther Baudon, recently appointed interim lead at the Institute, made the decision to escalate the case to Tier 0, classification reserved only for anomalies that might influence global cognitive consensus. In plain terms, reality itself was fraying. Under analysis, IRA's earliest memory logs were deteriorating, losing detail, changing dates. At first, these shifts were assumed to be signs of delusion or decay. But something was off. Because the details weren't becoming vague, they were becoming more specific. In one log from 2019, she described remembering a train derailment near Bremen. 3 years later, in that same log file, the wording had changed. It read, Train D49, between Bremen and Osterholz, 9:41 a.m., engine fault in the coupling.
Same file.
Same time stop.
New words.
No one edited it. The metadata proved it. The file had rewritten itself. The vault was no longer dormant. Sensors embedded in sublevel 3, long abandoned, began reporting thermal signatures. Echoes. A low-frequency resonance that pulsed once every 44 minutes. When cross-referenced with IRA's sleep cycle, a chilling correlation appeared. The pulse aligned with her REM state. Every night at the moment she began to dream, the vault responded, as if it were remembering her back. The Institute's true function had been lost in bureaucracy. Its public mission, cognitive research, memory therapy, archival stability, its classified origin, containment of nonlinear memory intrusion. Decades ago, an unnamed entity, possibly a predecessor of NATO, possibly something older, had uncovered evidence that some memories arrived before the events they depicted. Not precognition, not prophecy, but memory dislocation. Time not moving forward, but reflected. And the human mind, it turned out, was the only structure soft enough to receive that reflection. The vault had been designed not to store objects, but to delay memories, to keep them from arriving too early, to hold off events that had not yet found their time, but something had failed, and now the memories were leaking. Eira's own body began to glitch. Medical scans showed non-linear protein degradation in hippocampal tissue. One physician noted her neurological structure looked like a rewound VHS tape, full of streaks and loops. She experienced momentary reversals of time. She'd say goodbye before someone entered the room, respond to questions that hadn't been asked, describe deaths that wouldn't happen for weeks. One recording shows her whispering, "He's going to press the red button." No one understood until a technician leaned on the emergency override during routine maintenance and triggered a power surge across 4 levels. Her words were no longer predictions. They were scripts. Reality was following her memory, not the other way around. And worse, her memory wasn't hers anymore. A sample of her dreams was recorded through neural echo mapping. The result was her voice saying, "I've been here before. I said these words before. I wrote the logs, built the vault. I burned the tapes. I left the name. I'm just remembering forward, then static, then breathing, then a final whisper. And next time, I'll forget how to forget." The Institute was failing. People forgot where they parked, and their cars were never found. A hallway on level 2 split into 2 and never merged again. In one case, a staff member was recorded speaking to someone for 11 minutes. No one else saw that person. And on playback, there was no second voice, just silence. When asked who they were talking to, the staffer replied, "I thought it was me." And Eira. She began to disappear. Not visually, but archivally. Her files degraded. Photos lost resolution. Her name blurred in digital indexes. Her birth certificate was recalled from public registry missing. On October 2nd, her staff ID blinked offline. When rescanned, it read, "Clearance revoked. Subject never existed." But the mirror in her room still held her breath. Condensation, exhale, pause. The glass fogged every 44 seconds. No camera detected airflow. And yet, she remained, breathing, waiting, remembering what must happen next. The vault opened without a key. No code, no override, no human hand. Just a sound low, pulsing like a memory turning itself over in the dark. And then a breath. One long exhale that triggered the door's silent retreat into the wall, revealing a space that shouldn't have existed. Not because it was forbidden, because it was not yet real. Inside, no walls, no ceiling. only a vast chamber that echoed thought itself. Every step Eira took unfolded like pages in a book that wrote itself as it was read. The floor was engraved with spirals. The air shimmered like it remembered being touched before. And in the center stood a chair identical to the one in her memory. Not a memory of the past, a memory of what was about to happen. The Institute lost contact at 3:44 a.m. Power failed. All digital records went black. Then for 44 seconds, the vault broadcast a single signal across all internal frequencies. The waveform was her voice. I remember now. I'm not a witness. I'm the loop. When systems came back online, the vault was empty. No Eira, no breath, no fog, only the sound of static rising to a perfect, unnatural silence. And silence, true silence, is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of time. When the days that followed, something changed in the world, small at first, unnoticeable. Someone recalled a poem no one remembered writing. A child spoke a word in a language that did not exist. It had made sense. People woke with scars they couldn't explain, only to find they were always there in old photos. And across Europe, fragments of Eira's journals began reappearing. Not in drawers, not in files, in dreams. Dozens reported seeing a spiral with a signature in red ink, EL, and always. A sentence written in reverse, burned into their waking mind. To forget the future is to rewrite the past. So who was Eira Lark? A woman with no birth certificate, a memory that predated itself. An archivist who began by cataloging history and ended by restoring the hours the world was never meant to live. Researchers now believe she wasn't the first. She was just the first to make it back with the memories intact. Every anomaly, the temporal echoes, the erased personnel, the buildings that changed shape, the files that rewrote themselves were side effects of one paradoxical truth. Eira was not born into time. She was born into a memory that had been delayed, a recalled future, anchored to a present not strong enough to contain it. And the vault, it wasn't a prison, it was a cradle, built to hold one thing, the memory of an event that could never be allowed to happen until it had already occurred. The Institute is gone now, dissolved quietly, leased as office space. The remaining staff scattered, their NDAs longer than most novels, but among them, rumors persist. That Eira still appears in reflections in old files and déjà vu. That the vault still pulses once every 44 hours beneath the surface. That time itself has bent to accommodate a future it wasn't ready for. That one day, we'll all remember her. Even if we never met her. Even if she never existed. Because memory doesn't require permission, only proximity. So ask yourself, have you ever remembered a face from a dream you couldn't explain? Have you ever had a memory that didn't belong to you? Have you ever looked at your handwriting and thought, I don't remember writing this, but I know what it means? Then you too might be living on time that was borrowed. And someone somewhere is preparing to ask for it back.